So March just ended, and March Madness is a thing. And this March, there were a bunch of movies that I wanted to jam into my eyeballs. Welcome to Trentendo. I am Trentendo, and I want to take you on a journey. Something I'm calling March Movie Madness. There has not been a March in the history of Marches that have had this many great movies coming out every single week. So I went to the theater every single weekend, and I found a few new discoveries on my own at home. Throughout this big experiment, I learned two important things. First, I will die a happy man if I never have to see another trailer for Rampage ever again. And second, wherever you go, there you are. So let's get started. The first movie that I watched as part of March Movie Madness was Gringo. It stars David Oyo. The actor said he tells people to put an O either side of yellow. Oh, yellow O. Also, Charlize Theron, Amanda Seyfried, Joel Edgerton, and one of my favorite actors of all times, Charlton Copley. I always say if you want to keep up with a movie or follow it, look for the writers and the directors. Not often do I follow it for actors, but there's something about Charlton that just makes me have to watch a movie that he's in. The story is that David Oyelowo is basically being taken advantage of by his friend, his wife, and even his company. He works for a pharmaceutical company that basically made a weed pill down in Mexico. And the company's being sold, the Mexican cartel has some people that work there, and there's a British guy trying to steal the drugs for some reason. All of this is happening at the same time, so some paths cross and some S gets effed up. This is a fun movie and definitely worth a watch. The way that the actors and actresses handled it was almost like a stage performance. Everybody was right there on the edge of making it just a little more sensational than it had to be. I will say I was a little let down in the action and crazy department. But the story and the acting, they totally make up for that. Now the next movie that's going in here is going in here, but I didn't see it in the theater. I bought it on Blu-ray. Next up is Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor is absolutely not my favorite when it comes to the MCU. He's not my least favorite, but he's for sure not my favorite. But this is now one of my favorite MCU movies. This is the third Thor movie, and Hulk is back! And they made parts of it funny, and they made parts of it cool, and they made the overall experience enjoyable, while still managing to move the overarching MCU storyline forward. In other words, they finally got their shit together with Thor. Thor can be and is a very likable character. He just hasn't had his own movie where we've been allowed to like him yet. Now we can, and we have a great, huge cast to back him up. Yes, Jeff Goldblum was in the movie, but I was more excited to see Tessa Thompson. Her character has real depth, and I haven't seen anything with her in it that I haven't enjoyed. I don't want to go too far into it, but her character does deal a little bit with addiction and kind of a broken person. And since we're probably not going to see the Demon in a Bottle storyline in the MCU, I really appreciate that we had something in there. Plus, you had the director doing Korg's voice, which I think is some of everybody's favorite thing, and I personally like all the jokes about things like, Tony's wardrobe. Now, the next edition of March Movie Madness puts us back in the theater for Tomb Raider. This is the 2018 attempt to remind us that Lara Croft is still a thing. And I thought it was pretty rad! For those of you that don't know, Tomb Raider is a video game franchise that's been fairly successful and started back in 1996. The video game franchise follows Lara Croft as the titular, unintended, Tomb Raider. Think Indiana Jones but with two guns and other stuff. I personally have enjoyed many additions to the video game franchise over the years, and like most of you, am also really freaked out by the drowning scenes. So there's action and treasure hunting. The only problem is they made a couple of these movies back in the early 2000s, and they're pretty terrible. I don't know what it is, but there were a lot of movies back then that just seemed to have a hard time. So going into this movie, I had kind of a low expectation, but with some asterisks. Asterixes? Addendums. I knew the cast was going to be great. Alicia Vikander is an amazing actress, and Walter Goggins is always off the rails. This is also setting the story back to when she first raided a tomb. The video games recently have been doing a similar thing, and it seemed to work out pretty well for them. So I went in not expecting to be blown away, and was actually kind of blown away. The movie starts with some great lighthearted moments, and then it takes a serious turn. I spent the last 75% of the movie being drawn up in a knot because Laura's always falling off of something, onto something, or getting punched by something. The way that they handle the action was by far my favorite part of the movie. The fights they were having weren't some kind of super choreographed wire fu. The people in the fights are getting dirty and grunting and being out of breath. And instead of being an emotionless robot, Laura has to deal with the fact that to save some people, she might actually have to kill some people. They basically turned Lara Croft into the modern day John McClane. It was just incredible. The only downside is the comedy suffered just a little bit. In a movie that's fast-paced, you have to have an action beat every so many pages, so everything's got to be at a very fast pace. The movie tries to be really funny, but you have to take your time with comedy. But it didn't make me cringe, and it didn't make the movie suffer at all. Next up is another movie I did not see in the theater. Boogity boogity boogity, I'm talking about Logan Lucky. Now, I resisted this one when it was in the theater. It was included with Amazon Prime, so I thought, why not try it out? The movie's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who also did the Ocean's movies, which I'm a huge fan of. I watched Logan Lucky and I found myself laughing out loud by myself. I then talked about it to people at work the next day, and then I watched it again that night, and then I even made my roommate watch it again the next day. So I think I liked it. This movie has so much going for it. The characters feel warm and lived in. I'm from the South, and this made me feel like I made a movie about a bunch of people that I grew up with. But it's still kind of an Ocean's movie. The music was great, the acting was impeccable, and the comedy was spot on. Oh, and the little girl that's at the center of the whole story is just the most adorable thing you'd ever see in your entire life. I really feel like Channing Tatum and the little girl had a great father-daughter dynamic. And you know, Tatum is actually from the South. He's from a town about 2 hours away from where I'm from, so we're basically the same person. Now, I only have one legitimate complaint about the entire movie. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the world's worst actor. Hilary Swank's voice. What the hell was she doing? It sounded like a male alien was trying to impersonate a female human, but doing it through a microphone that was jammed in Hilary Swank's throat. I don't know if it was some kind of weird direction by Soderbergh or if it was like one of her actor's secrets or something, but it really bothered me. But that's not enough to take down this amazing movie. So now we go back to the theaters for the next selection in March Movie Madness. Pacific Rim 2. Pack Sun Shoes. Pacific Rim 2. God, this movie was great. I mean, it basically appeals to my inner 12-year-old. The original Pacific Rim really appealed to my inner 9-year-old, so my insides had some time to grow up. This film is set a few years after the original one. John Boyega's in this one, and he's playing the son of Idris Elba's character from the first film. And it's set in a world where these monsters don't come around anymore, and we're left with all these giant fighting robots. So now the robots are gonna fight each other. Oh. The visuals are as amazing as you would expect. It was ridiculous and fun, and you should watch it. The young kid new recruits were really good, John Boyega was as amazing as you would expect, and Scott Eastwood was totally in the film. Now we get ready for the final entry. Ready Player One. I have not been this excited about seeing a movie in a long time. This is a Steven Spielberg adaptation of the Ernest Cline pop culture mixtape of a book. If you're not in the know, there's this book. And it's about the future where we ruin stuff because we're dirty ruiners. There's this VR video game world that everyone has become obsessed with logging into. The creator of the game dies, and he's set up a contest left behind that anybody could win, but it helps if you're as much of an 80s pop culture fanatic as he is. So the book spends a lot of time making references to amazing movies, and books, and music, and video games. Now, this movie was brought a little more up to date with some of the references. When you look at the storyline, like as an overarching view, they didn't really mess with that too much, but there are a lot of big changes. But it was a pretty solid adaptation. The only problem is that it didn't give me the magical feel that the book did. And I don't think that it should have. First off, I set an unreal expectation for it. Movies based off of books seldom are as good or better than the books. Usually it's the other way around because we use our mind to populate the rest of the stuff that's in the book. We use the words as a springboard, but then we fill everything else in our mind. So we're the ones that are running with the dinosaurs, or holding the giant's hand, or eating the fava beans. What? Second, this movie is made for kids. I mean, you know, older kids can enjoy it and adults can enjoy it too, but it is made for the kids. So a lot of the references needed to be brought up to date so that a younger class could enjoy them. So factoring in those two things, I have to say it's a pretty great movie. The acting was fantastic, you know the special effects are going to be great, and there was even one part that actually gave me goosebumps. But you have to guess which part. It's a secret. So I watched the movie with my roommate. Not that one. That one. And afterwards he was like, you've got to watch Buckaroo Banzai. So for the final entry into March Movie Madness, I have The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. And oh my god, I can't even with this movie. I can't write my own blurb about this because the actual one that exists is beyond anything I've ever read before. Adventurer, brain surgeon, rock musician Buckaroo Banzai and his crime-fighting team, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, must stop evil alien invaders from the Eighth Dimension who are planning to conquer Earth. I've never been more blown away by anything in my entire life. It's absolutely mind-boggling that this movie got made. Even just reading the cast list is absurd. I don't really want to give anything away or say too much. I really want you to go out and watch this movie. So, thank you for watching. I hope this has helped you decide on a movie or two to watch. If you've seen any movies lately that you really liked, let me know by leaving it in the comments. Now, I'm going to go outside for the first time in 31 days. This movie's set a few years after the original one, and in this one, John Boyega is playing the son of Idris Elba's character from the first one. I was so close. Ha!